Morning, Alex.
Good morning.
Could you introduce yourself, please, and just tell us a little bit about Emergn and what it offers?
So my name is Alex Adamopoulos. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Emergn Limited. Emergn is a global consultancy. Our focus has been on IT and business transformation services. The emphasis of our services is really based on applying agile and lean thinking into what we call traditional processes that companies use today, all in an effort to help them improve business performance.
What's some of the new thinking that's shaping outsourcing, in your opinion, at the moment?
Some of that new thinking would include a greater emphasis on how organizations can use traditional processes in a smarter way. So if you look at agile, for example, which has been used to largely do application development, we've helped companies understand that the principles and practices that are represented in agile actually have a wider usage across IT. They help organizations not only make software better, but make better decisions around suppliers, better decisions around contracting, how they interface with other groups like their PMO, their VMO, even as far left as influencing the product development lifecycle and how ideas flow through the system. Things like agile and lean represent some key components that IT organizations and even areas of the business really need to look at leveraging.
So when companies do adopt these approaches, what does it look like and what advantages does it offer them?
So specific to outsourcing, there are several advantages that a company can expect when they're adapting agile thinking into their organization. Some of that would include smarter partner and vendor selection. So looking at the partner stream in terms of its value back to the business versus it being just a focus on cost savings. Another is answering the optimize the whole question, which can be a very vague and nebulous kind of a statement that we're all guilty of making sometimes, versus understanding what does it mean, what are we actually trying to optimize right now? Because ultimately you want to do the right thing right now for the organization. So sometimes we use phrases like optimize to infer that we're going to shape something a different way, but this kind of thinking helps qualify, or I should say quantify, the value of the work that we're looking to do. I'd say another area is inspect and adapt. Agile thinking in the outsourcing process allows us to inspect what we're doing in a dynamic fashion versus a waterfall fashion or in a laid-back manner. So the idea of inspecting the work on an ongoing basis and continuously ensuring it's adding the value we expected it to add is much different than starting a process and just assuming it's going to go through its natural flow. So the whole idea of inspect and adapt is very important to how this learning and this thinking works. Another focus would be getting the right contract. So there's a lot of talk now on outcome-based contracts. The whole idea of agility in an outsourcing contract is still fairly misunderstood, and what organizations can benefit from is understanding what they mean when they say outcome versus output versus traditional SLA-driven contracts that you see today for many companies. There probably are a couple other areas. I would say enabling what we call win-win, another very vague area. What does win-win really mean? Here you really need to understand who the ultimate customer is and what is the benefit you're driving, because that's really where the win is. Have you achieved the goals and objectives you set out to achieve, and have you thought about it in a way that helps the whole life cycle of the outsourcing relationship? And probably the last one is just the breaking down the walls or the barriers that often exist between IT and the business. This whole idea of alignment has been an area that companies have struggled with for years. It gets written about very often. And the benefits of agile thinking really do help align business and IT because they bring a level of transparency and accountability in the relationships that can easily be ignored with what we would call traditional process.
Last question. Over the next 18 to 24 months, how do you see outsourcing evolving and what challenges are companies likely to face?
I believe the challenges that companies will still face with outsourcing in the next 18 to 24 months will remain similar. For example, the value of the contracting relationship still seems to be something that companies want to improve. Now, that will come through various means. The development of more outcome and output-based contracting, which is a hot topic and actually makes a lot of sense, is one thing. But I think you really need to inspect that, because many outsourcing contracts are large managed service contracts. So what type of contracts do we really believe we can shape better in terms of outcome and output based? So that will be looked at a little more definitively, so companies can get an idea of where they can apply that learning. I think some of the other things that really need to be talked about are what I call the intangibles. Am I looking to treat my supplier network as an extension of my organization versus a partner? Now, some may challenge that subtlety, but I think what needs to be said here, even though you're my partner, I don't often have that emotional tie or bond as if you were my employee. So the companies that I see working best in the outsourcing realm in terms of applying new thinking are the companies that have really looked at how to construct a solid relationship with their suppliers, where it really is based on what is best for my business. One of my clients has said it best when he refers to his partner network. He often says, I want everyone just doing what's right for me. And I think clients that have that mindset and the suppliers that share that mindset are the ones that are going to overcome what I would call the traditional challenges.